Welcome back to LC Coins World, where today we're taking a closer look at some incredible Lincoln Pennies struck at the San Francisco Mint. From the 1979s throughout 1980s, these little copper coins with that tiny S under the date have become some of the most fascinating finds in coin collecting. At first glance, they may look like ordinary worn cents you'd find in a change jar, but don't be fooled. Hidden among them are rarities and high grade survivors that have sold for thousands, even tens of thousands of dollars at auction. From the wartime issues of 1978 and 1972, the post-war 1970 and 1971, all the way to the final San Francisco pennies of 1975, each one tells a story of history, scarcity, and shocking value. If you love uncovering the secrets behind old coins and want to see just how valuable these S-Mint marks can be, make sure to subscribe right here so you don't miss the treasures still waiting to be. Today, we're going to take a look at the 1979 Lincoln 1-cent coin. These are just some kind of fine examples. I look at the coloring on here. It's just beautiful if you're going to get a coin that's been used. If you can get this kind of coloring on it, I think. Those are the kinds that people, I used to love to have it. It looks like it went through a lot of hands. It looks like it's aged and aged well. This, of course, in 79 we were still doing. The bronze, which was the copper, and zinc or tin mix. 95 copper, I believe in FeE %, zinc or tin. It wasn't until 1982 that we switched over to the zinc, kind of zinc-filled ones that just don't at the natina that that's ones do. So this is a 1979 D here in D. Of course, for the Denver Mint, and at the Denver Mint in 1979, they made a lot of these. They made 6 billion. And I mean 4 billion, 6 billion at the Philadelphia Mint. So here's the Philadelphia No Mint mark, 6 billion. Here's the Denver Mint D Mint mark. They made 4.1 billion, and they also made them at San Francisco. And they made 3.6 million. The San Francisco Mint, if you looking for these, you want the expensive versions. The San Francisco Mint version had two different types. It had a clear S and a filed S. And if you get the filled S version, then you'll it's really interesting because it's almost the same filled desk version that was used for the stamping of the Susan B. Anthony coin. So if you've seen the Susan B. Anthony coins, they have a filleds and a blob version of the coins. I think this might be, let's see, there it is. So see this filled desk version here. You will see this sometimes as an S on one of the 1979 pennies, and some people say that the stamp or the rod that was used to stamp this was the same for the pennies and for the Susan B. coins. But either way, you might get a fill desk version of this on a penny, and the fill this version is worth a lot less because the blob kind of versions weren't as valued as the ones that were clear. All right, so what do we got here? We got Abraham Lincoln on the front, says, "And God we trust over his head liberty." Behind him, 1979 D for Denver Mint here. If we tip these up, most pennies, if you tip them up, you can see right down in here the engravers. Initials and Victor David Brenner first. Engraved this in 1909. There's AVD and AB here underneath. Abraham Lincoln, it's gone through a couple different versions. This is the Lincoln Memorial version. You've probably already seen the wheat years version, where the wheat ears are on the backs. The Lincoln Memorial version of the United States of America at the top. Pluribus unum here. Lincoln way down there in the center of the Lincoln Memorial, which is in Washington, D.C. There's one center at the bar, but over here on the side, there's the designer's initials for the back end. That's Frank Casparo, FG. Can you see? Those right there now. Almost 10 million of them. So compare the 10 million they made of those to the amount of Lincoln Memorial cents they made 1979. They made 10 billion. Of these two, they made 10 million of this one. So that kind of shows you where some of the olartok valuak will na. What's the value of these, just as they are probably 3 or 4 cents? This version San Francisco Mint only came out when the proof. So that's worth a minimum of probably $2. And you can find the 1851. There's a little bit of an over date here, where the date kind of gets stuck onto Liberty a little bit. And that makes this much more valuable, but even if it wasn't that way, these coins are still worth 15 to 18 bucks. They made in the 1851, they made about 9. These coins here, because they made 10 billion of them, are not going to have any value at all. I think the U.S. coin to $5 once you get up to Miss 65 or above, so a mint state 65 out of 70, then you start looking at some real money. If you can get this coin in a red now, this coin might have been red when it first came out, but it's gone through. If you get this coin, see this red hue underneath here, if the whole coin looks going to be your most valuable coin that you can get for the 1979 version, all right? So there's the D, there's the P, there's the Lincoln Memorial. Here's the old school one way, bigger. The braided hair version, oh, and I didn't show you the back of that one. United have had these wreaths on the coins for so long, and that's people ask where that wreath come from. Well, there it is. It sometimes it's an olive wreath, sometimes it's another wreath, and coins just have them all right. Coin that traditionally has been vastly overlooked in coin collecting, and that's going to be the 1975 Lincoln Penny. Oh, yes, a good old 1975, and a lot of you will say, well, heck, I see these all the time, and I don't think anything of, it'll just throw them back, then they go up pretty frequently. Well, I'm gonna tell you this, okay, this is a sleeper coin for a few reasons, okay? First of all, a lot of you probably are not aware, but this is only one of 3 different denominations made in 1975. The U.S. Mint didn't produce anything for the Washington quarter, the candy $50, and the Eisenhower dollar in 1975. It's actually, they skipped a date from 74 to 76. And the big reason is that the U.S. Mint was they were ramping up the anticipation for the upcoming bicentennial suite of coins for 1976. So they spent the better part of 1975 just making it happen with the design, the processes, and everything like that, and as a result, only a Lincoln cent, a Jefferson nickel, and a Roosevelt dime were ever produced for 1975, okay? So the real question is, because they've only made these 3 denominations, does this make them more valuable, especially the Lincoln cent, which we're going to talk about in this video, is one of those coins that iconically were mass-produced. Okay, you're going to see here in a quick second how many millions of these coins were produced, but because they were generally overlooked, are high. Graded copies of this coin valuable? Well, I'm happy to say yes, but it does come with a little element of kind of like risk involved when you, try and find really high graded coins that you want sent out for grading or authentication, so I want to 9 millions upon billions. Thank you guys for joining in, of course. Gonna do my YouTube thing, like share, subscribe at the bell for its notification, and let's go ahead and dive right into the first coin that I want to highlight, and that's going to be in the 1975p. This is the Philadelphia minted coin. As you guys can see, there is no actual fiscal P mint mark on these coins, and because of that, it is a Philadelphia minted coin in terms of the mintage. Again, there is no shortage of these in spite of the fact that it's one of only 3 denominations made in 1975. 5,451,476,142 total pieces were produced of the 1975 Lincoln cent, so that's worth noting here. And with the 1975, there's really no notable double dies or any sort of varieties for this date, which is why it's been kind of overlooked coin, all right? And because there's not a whole lot else going for it, here's where it really begins to kind of like get crazy, and that's all in the grading, all right. As you guys know, you could send these coins out to third-party authenticators like PCGS, NGC, and even Annex, okay? But for this particular video, we're going to focus on coins graded by PCGS for the grading aspect of the 1975 Lincoln Penny. Now, the measure of value of these modern, take a deep dive into the fascinating world of coins and their hidden stories. Today, we will explore the 1964 Lincoln Penny A, coin that is more than just a small piece of copper. It is a window into American history, culture, and economy, and for the next 2 hours, we will carefully travel through its origins, design, minting process, historical context, and the reasons why this coin still captures the attention of collectors and historians alike. The 1964 Lincoln Penny was struck during a period of great change in America. It was part of a series that began in 1909. To celebrate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. Lincoln was chosen as the face of the cent because he symbolized unity, freedom, and perseverance. The 1964 issue came at a time when the United States was undergoing major social and political transitions, the civil rights movement was at its peak. President John F. Kennedy had been assassinated just a year earlier, and the Vietnam War was beginning. To escalate in this climate, even a small coin like the Lincoln penny carried symbolic weight, representing not only monetary value, but also the endurance of American ideals. When we talk about the 1964 penny, we must understand its physical characteristics. The coin was composed primarily of copper 95% with a small mix of tin and zinc to give it strength and durability. It weighed 3.11 grams and had a diameter of 19 millimeters. Its obverse featured the famous bust of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner. This design had been in use since 1909, and by 1964, it had become one of the most familiar images in American life. Brenner's initials, VDB, were originally included on the coin in 1909 at the bottom of the reverse, but after public criticism for being too prominent, they were removed later. They were reintroduced in 1918, but in a smaller form beneath Lincoln's shoulder, where they remain to this day. The reverse of the 1964 penny carried the classic wheat ears design with two stalks of wheat framing the words 1 cent and United States of America, along with the national motto E pluribus bonum. This wheat design had been part of the penny since 1909, and it symbolized prosperity, agriculture, and growth themes central to the American identity. The wheat reverse would remain until 1958, but here is where it gets interesting. In 1959, to mark the 150th the anniversary of Lincoln's birth, the reverse design was changed to the Lincoln Memorial, created by Frank Gasparo. So by 1964, every Lincoln cent featured the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse instead of the wheat stalks. This means that the 1964 penny is part of the Lincoln Memorial series, which lasted until 2008. This memorial design made the 1964 penny very distinctive. Not only did it honor Lincoln on the obverse, but it also placed his legacy in context by showing the monument dedicated to him in Washington, D.C. This created the unique situation where Lincoln was the first person to appear on both sides of the same coin. His portrait on the front and his statue faintly visible inside the memorial on the back. It was a powerful tribute to his lasting influence on American society. The mintage numbers of the 1964 Lincoln penny were extremely high due to rising demand for coinage in the early 1960s. Millions of Americans were using cash in daily life, and the U.S. Mint struggled to keep up with circulation needs. As a result, more than 6 billion Lincoln cents were produced in 1964 across the Philadelphia and Denver mints, making it one of the most common dates in the series. However, despite its large mintage, it remains historically significant because it represents the era when coins were still primarily made from copper, before the U.S. Mint shifted to using cheaper materials in later decades. For collectors, the 1964 penny offers several points of interest. While the standard coin is common, there are varieties and errors that can be highly valuable. For example, coins with doubling on the date or lettering, known as double die varieties, are sought after by numismatists. Off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and coins with die cracks are also collectible in high grades, especially in mint state condition. These coins can fetch far more than their face value. Professional grading services such as PCGS and NGC certify these coins and assign them values that depend on rarity and condition. Now let us look at the broader context of 1964. America, the country, was entering a new era. Lyndon B. Johnson had just signed the Civil Rights Act of 1964, reshaping American society forever. The Beatles had arrived in the U.S., bringing a cultural revolution. Television was becoming a central part of family life, and yet in people's pockets, the simple copper penny remained a constant, a reminder of both tradition and progress. The penny linked generations together, from the Great Depression to World War II to the social upheaval of the 1960s. Another fascinating aspect of the 1964 penny is the debate about its future. At the time, even though billions were minted, people were already questioning whether the penny should continue at all. Critics argued that inflation had reduced its purchasing power, making it nearly worthless in circulation. Yet the public remained attached to it. The image of Lincoln gave it a patriotic resonance, and the coin endured decade after decade, eventually becoming a piece of American heritage. As we move deeper into this discussion, we can analyze how the penny became a teaching tool for children. Many Americans recall receiving pennies in allowance or using them in piggy banks to learn the basics of saving money. Banks and schools even distributed coin boards encouraging young savers to collect Lincoln cents by date and mint mark. The 1964 penny was part of this educational journey for millions of children across the country. Basics of saving money. Banks and schools even distributed coin boards encouraging young savers to collect Lincoln cents by date and mint mark. The 1964 penny was part of this educational journey for millions of children across the country. For collectors, today a 1964 penny in circulated condition is generally only worth face value. However, uncirculated examples, especially those graded MS-66 or higher, can be worth significantly more. Proof versions struck in San Francisco for collectors are also popular. They were struck on specially prepared dies and polished planchets, giving them a mirror-like finish, which makes them desirable pieces for numismatic collections. The 1964 penny also marks an important transition in American coinage. Shortly after this year, the U.S. Mint began facing serious challenges, with silver coinage leading to the Coinage Act of 1965, which removed silver from dimes and quarters. Although pennies continued to be made of copper through the early 1980s, the general trend was toward cheaper compositions. The 1964 penny therefore represents the last years of traditional American coinage before these drastic changes took place. Throughout this video, we will continue exploring the social, economic, and cultural backdrop of the 1964 penny, from its artistic design to its production challenges, from the stories of ordinary Americans who used it every day to the legacy it holds in the hearts of collectors. We will connect the dots between history and numismatics, showing how a tiny coin can reveal so much about the life and times of an entire nation. So stay with us as we embark on this 2-hour journey into the world of the 1964 Lincoln penny, a coin that may seem small in your hand but carries a giant story in the history of the United States. And by the end of this video, you will not only know its value and varieties, but also understand why it deserves a special place in both collections and memory. Would you like me to expand this into a full 2-hour style script, broken into chapters, like history, design, minting, varieties, errors, cultural significance, collector's value, and legacy, so you can directly use it for your channel narration?
Welcome back to LC Coins World, the place where every coin tells a story and every story reveals a piece of our shared history. Today we're exploring a coin that might seem ordinary at first glance, but holds extraordinary significance in the story of American coinage, the 1978 Lincoln penny, a coin that circulated in the hands of millions and silently witnessed the heartbeat of a nation in transition from pocket change to collector's item. This little copper coin carries more than just monetary value. It's a snapshot of America in the late 1970s. The 1978 Lincoln penny was the last of its kind to be minted entirely in copper, before the U.S. Mint made a historic change to a copper-plated zinc composition. In 1982, for decades, the Lincoln penny remained a cornerstone of American currency, not only because of its practical use, but because of what it represented. Designed by Victor David Brenner in 1909, to honor the centennial of President Abraham Lincoln's birth, the Lincoln cent marked the first time a real person appeared on regular U.S. coinage. The decision was both cultural and symbolic. Lincoln had come to embody unity, sacrifice, and leadership in American memory, and placing his image on a coin meant putting those values into the hands of everyday citizens. By the time 1978 came around, the Lincoln cent had already been in circulation for nearly 70 years. Yet this particular year marked the end of an era in terms of metal content. the 1978 penny, was minted with a composition of 95% copper and 5% zinc, giving it a rich weight and a distinctive reddish hue over time. Environmental and economic pressures, including the rising cost of copper, forced the U.S. Mint to explore more cost-effective materials, even though that change wouldn't occur until 1982. The 1978 coin stands as one of the last chapters of the traditional copper penny story. In terms of mintage, over 5 billion Lincoln pennies were produced in 1978, split between two mint locations: the Philadelphia Mint, which issued coins with no mint mark, and the Denver Mint, which used the D Mint mark. The Philadelphia Mint produced approximately 5.55 billion coins, while Denver contributed over 4.28 billion. The San Francisco Mint also issued proof versions for collectors bearing the S Mint mark. These proof coins were struck using specially prepared dies and planchets, resulting in a mirror-like finish and sharper detail. The reverse of the 1978 Lincoln penny featured the Lincoln Memorial, which had been introduced in 1959, replacing the previous wheat ears design created by Brenner. This reverse design was the work of Frank Gasparo, who was then chief engraver of the U.S. Mint. The image not only paid tribute to the president, but if observed closely, it also depicted a tiny image of the seated Lincoln statue visible between the columns, a small but historically rich artistic detail often overlooked. 1978 was a year of subtle transformation in the United States, and the Lincoln penny reflects that society was shifting economically and culturally. Inflation was creeping into the everyday American experience. The average income hovered around $10,000 a year. Gas was less than $1 a gallon, and a penny still carried meaning. People saved them, collected them, and children were taught to count with them. Yet change was on the horizon, both in coinage and in the American way of life. For collectors, the 1978 Lincoln penny holds multiple areas of interest, though not classified as rare in circulated condition. And circulated examples, and especially high-grade proof coins, continue to draw attention. Coins graded Ms. 65 or higher by PCGs or NGC often command premium values in the numismatic market, particularly those with strong strikes, red color designation, and minimal contact marks. While most 1978 pennies remain affordable, certain era coins are especially sought after, including double die obverses, off-center strikes, broad strikes, and coins struck on the wrong planchet. These errors tell their own stories about the minting process and are treasured by collectors for their uniqueness. The legacy of the Lincoln penny also comes into focus when we look at how the coin has been used in art, education, and memory for many Americans. Lincoln cents were their first introduction to coin collecting, handed down by parents or grandparents, sorted by date and mint mark, kept in blue Whitman folders or glass jars. The 1978 edition exists within that broader emotional and historical narrative. It reminds us of a time before the digital age when money was held and examined, not swiped or tapped. The Lincoln penny remains the longest-running coin design in American history. The obverse design has remained largely unchanged since its debut in 1909, making it a powerful symbol of national identity. The 1978 coin especially represents the bridge between the past and future. It stood at the crossroads of economic change, material innovation, and nostalgic reflection on a simpler time, when a single cent could still buy something meaningful. Today, if you find a 1978 penny in your pocket or tucked away in a jar, you're holding more than a coin. You're holding a fragment of a larger story, one that includes the rise and fall of industries, the shifting tides of presidential administrations, the evolution of art and design in American minting, and the enduring power of a president's legacy cast in copper. The value of the 1978 penny may not lie in its price, but in its purpose, in its presence in our lives then and now. As you look closer at this humble coin with Lincoln's steady gaze and the memorial behind him, remember what it stands for: history, memory, and the small everyday moments that define us all. In this sense, the 1978 Lincoln penny is not just a relic of the past. It's a reminder that even the smallest things can carry the greatest meaning, where we explore the timeless stories behind the coins we once carried in our pockets or found hidden in an old drawer. Today, we journey deep into the past to uncover the history, the production, and the true collectible value of one of the most widely circulated and historically rich coins in American numismatics. The 1961 Lincoln penny, a small copper coin with a big story that spans generations, economies, and American identity. Let us begin our journey by setting the stage for 1961, a year of transition, optimism, and progress in the United States. John F. Kennedy had just taken office as the 35th President of the United States, bringing with him a new spirit of hope and energy. The Cold War was heating up, the civil rights movement was gaining momentum, and space exploration was about to become a national priority in this environment. The United States Mint continued its operations with precision and dedication, supplying coins to keep pace with the growing economy and public demand. The Lincoln cent, which had first been introduced in 1909, remained the most commonly used denomination. By 1961, it had already been in circulation for over 5 decades, featuring the iconic bust of Abraham Lincoln designed by Victor David Brenner. The design was introduced to commemorate Lincoln's 100th birthday and was the first time a real person had been featured on a regular issue. American coin, the reverse of the Lincoln penny, which from 1959 onward displayed the Lincoln Memorial, replaced the original wheat ears design of the early years. The 1961 Lincoln penny specifically refers to the 1-cent coin, struck at the Denver Mint, as indicated by the small D mint mark beneath the date on the obverse side. The Denver Mint was one of the primary production facilities of the United States Mint system, located in Colorado. The Denver Mint has long been known for its high volume and high-quality coin production. In 1961, it struck over 1.7 billion Lincoln cents, making this particular coin extremely common in its time, though not without its own share of intrigue and value for collectors today. The 1961 Lincoln penny was composed of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, which was the standard composition for pennies from 1909 until 1962. The weight of each coin was 3.11 grams. With a diameter of 19 millimeters, the coins were struck using high-pressure minting machines that ensured consistency and detail in the relief of Lincoln's profile. And the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse side, the inscriptions included, "In God We Trust Liberty," and the date on the obverse, along with United States of America, E Pluribus Unum, and 1 cent on the reverse. Now, let us delve into the historical and economic context in which this coin circulated during the early 1960s. America was undergoing technological advancement, social change, and economic expansion. The economy was strong, unemployment was relatively low, and middle class America was growing. This meant that cash was king, and physical currency, including coins like the Lincoln cent, played an essential role in daily life. The 1961 penny was used for everything from purchasing candy and newspapers to making change at gas stations, diners, and movie theaters. It passed through countless hands and told millions of stories with every exchange. But what makes the 1961 Lincoln penny special from a collector's perspective is not just its circulation numbers, but also the unique varieties, errors, and conditions that have emerged over the decades. Some 1961 pennies were struck with repunched mint marks, a common error during the era when mint marks were hand-punched into dies. Collectors often look for these varieties as they can increase a coin's value significantly, especially in higher grades. Additionally, some examples have been discovered with doubled dies or other minor striking anomalies, adding yet another layer of appeal to an already historic coin. Let us now talk about grading. The condition of a 1961 Lincoln penny can greatly affect its market value. Coins are typically graded on the Sheldon scale, ranging from poor, which is a grade of 1, to mint state 70 or Ms. 70, a perfect coin with no flaws at all. While circulated 1961D pennies are still worth only face value or slightly above uncirculated examples, especially in grades Ms. 65 and above, can command higher prices in the collector market in red condition, meaning the original copper luster is still present without much toning. Some examples have sold for more than $20 or higher, depending on demand and rarity. For many collectors, the appeal of the 1961D penny also lies in its place within the larger Lincoln cent series. It serves as a link between two eras: the classic copper composition that would soon be phased out, and the transitional years that followed in the 1960s and 1972, when economic pressures forced changes to coinage materials and production methods. By 1962, the United States Mint eliminated the tin from the penny composition, creating a copper-zinc blend that would eventually give way to the modern copper-plated zinc penny, introduced in 1982. As the video continues, we explore in greater detail the mintage figures of the 1961D penny, comparing them with other years and other mints. We analyze the impact of hoarding on coin circulation. We take a closer look at error varieties such as off-center strikes, clipped planchets, die cracks, and lamination errors. We walk through the process of submitting coins for professional grading and how to interpret population reports from grading services such as PCGs and NGC. We also hear from veteran collectors who share their experiences of finding 1961D Lincoln pennies in change rolls in old family collections, and even in mint-sealed bags from estate sales. We dive into auction histories, looking at how some examples of the 1961D penny have performed at major auction houses across the country. We visit coin shows and speak with dealers about the current demand for early 1960s Lincoln cents and how market interest has evolved over time. In the second half of this 2-hour journey, we look at how to identify counterfeit or altered coins and what security features exist even in older coins to verify authenticity. We provide a step-by-step guide to building a complete Lincoln cent collection, including the tools and resources you will need. We also explore how the Lincoln cent has been used in American culture as a teaching tool, a symbol of thrift, and even in art projects and memorial tributes. We wrap up our exploration by reflecting on the emotional and historical value of the 1961D penny for many viewers, especially those aged 45 and older. This coin represents a time when America felt simpler, safer, and full of possibility. A coin you may have received as a child, tucked into your piggy bank, or handed over the counter with a smile. It is more than just copper. It is a memory preserved in metal, a quiet piece of the American story that lives on in collections and conversations. So whether you are a lifelong numismatist or just discovering the magic of coins for the first time, the 1961D Lincoln penny offers a fascinating window into our nation's past and a reminder that even the smallest pieces of change can carry the weight of history. Thank you for joining us here on LC Coins World. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share as we continue to bring you the stories behind the coins that shaped America, the place where history jingles in your pocket and every coin tells a story. Today, we're traveling back to a pivotal moment in American numismatic history as we dive deep into the rich legacy and collector intrigue surrounding the 1960D Lincoln penny. This 1-cent coin, minted in Denver during a time of transition in American life, holds much more than its face value. It is a reflection of changing minting technologies, shifts in public demand, and the enduring symbolism of Abraham Lincoln in American culture. The 1960s marked the dawn of a new era in the United States. The country stood on the cusp of technological innovation, space exploration, and civil rights reform. As this wave of progress took hold, the U.S. Mint was grappling with its own evolution, including the modernization of coin production and the growing needs of a booming post-war population. The Lincoln cent itself had already been a staple in American currency since its first issue in 1909, commemorating the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, with a design by Victor David Brenner featuring Lincoln's bust on the obverse. This penny was the first U.S. coin to depict a real historical figure on a circulating denomination, and its legacy carried forward for decades. By 1960, the Lincoln cent had undergone many changes, but still remained a cornerstone of everyday transactions. The version minted that year at the Denver Mint bore the familiar D mint mark and featured the reverse design introduced in 1959 to commemorate Lincoln's 150th birthday, which showed the Lincoln Memorial in fine detail, crafted by Frank Gasparo. This design offered Americans a symbolic and architectural homage to Lincoln, and was especially admired for the subtle yet artistic rendering of the seated Lincoln statue within the monument. Now, the 1960 Lincoln cent is perhaps best known to collectors for a unique and important distinction. It was one of the few years when two different date sizes were produced within the same year, commonly referred to as the small date and large date varieties. This was not merely a cosmetic difference, but rather a fascinating insight into the minting process, errors, revisions, and production decisions made under real-world pressures. Small date 1960 cents are particularly prized by collectors due to their relative scarcity compared to their large date counterparts. These differences became one of the major talking points for numismatists during the early 1960s, and even sparked a miniature treasure hunt for rolls of uncirculated coins. The Denver Mint in 1960 was producing millions of coins to meet national demand, but due to die revisions during the production year, both small and large date coins made their way into circulation. This unexpected development stirred excitement in the collecting community and brought renewed interest to Lincoln cents, even among casual coin holders. As dealers began advertising for premium payments on small date coins, the public joined in the search, scouring change. Beyond the variety intrigue, the 1960 Lincoln penny holds additional appeal due to the broader historical and economic context of the time. America in 1960 was a society standing between the nostalgia of the 1950s and the upheaval of the 1960s. It was a year that saw the election of John F. Kennedy, the launch of the first televised presidential debates, and the accelerating race to space. Every object from that era, including a simple penny, carries the imprint of that momentum. When examining a 1960 penny, collectors often look for sharpness in strike color and luster, as well as potential die errors such as doubling die cracks or off-center strikes, which add to the value and uniqueness of each individual coin. Uncirculated examples with strong red color and original mint brilliance are highly desirable, particularly in the small date variant. Grading services like PCGs and NGC have authenticated and slabbed thousands of these coins, with top-graded examples reaching significant prices in auctions and private sales. In numismatic circles, the 1960 penny has become something of a benchmark for entry-level collectors while also maintaining value for more seasoned hobbyists. Its accessibility in circulated condition makes it an easy starting point, yet the existence of valuable varieties and errors offers a level of depth that keeps the hunt interesting for years. Moreover, its educational value cannot be overstated. The 1960 Lincoln penny teaches collectors about mint practices, topography, die variations, and market trends. It demonstrates how small differences in design can lead to significant changes in value, and how public interest can influence the way coins are perceived and collected. So whether you're holding one of these pennies in your hand out of curiosity, or because it's been passed down through generations, this humble 1-cent coin represents a bridge between eras, between routine and rarity, and between the everyday and the exceptional. It is not just a piece of copper, plated zinc, or bronze. Depending on its composition, but a piece of living American history captured in metal. Stay with us as we continue to explore every angle of this remarkable coin, from its design, specifications to its minting journey and its place in today's collector market. We'll also take a closer look at the small date versus large date varieties, the reasons behind the die changes, and the lasting effect these had on Lincoln cent collecting for decades to come. So buckle in and get ready for an in-depth exploration of the 1960 Lincoln penny here on LC Coins World, where every coin has a voice, and every voice echoes history.